Welcome to the ASAP Elite Podcast, Achievement, Success, and Perseverance of the Elite. Our next guest exemplifies what our show is all about. We are honored to bring to you Black excellence and Black history. Please allow us to introduce our next guest, former NFL player and current executive at the Fritz Pollard Alliance, Mr. Larry Lee. Hey, how you doing?
Hello, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Such a pleasure.
Yeah, now, Mr. Larry Lee, again, thank you for joining the show. I think this is going to be a very insightful show for our audience. And now, if you could do a quick favor for me, tell us a little bit about who you are, as well as your position at the Fritz Pollard Alliance. And then also after that, what I really like you to do is kind of dive into a little bit, because many of our viewers, everybody knows who Jackie Robinson is and Jackie Robinson's significance as it comes to sports and baseball. But few people know about Fritz Pollard and his significance that he played in the football world. So if you could do that I would greatly appreciate it.
Okay, well, a little bit about me. I'm originally from Dayton, Ohio, and I went to UCLA on a football scholarship, played there, and graduated from there. Got drafted by the Detroit Lions in 1981 in the 5th round, and I played 5 years with the Lions, 2 years with the Dolphins, and 2 years with the Broncos. Went to Super Bowl 22 with the Broncos, and after my playing days, I owned a couple of businesses, but I was in the front office of the Detroit Lions as well. I was vice president of football operations for 9 years, doing some pretty good years with Barry Sanders and Lomas Brown and Chris Billman and Benny Blades and those Herman Moore, all those guys. So after that, the plight of the African American executive in the NFL is pretty taunting. So after the Lions or the Ford family had a better way and hired Matt Millen, I was unable to find another job in the league with all my credentials. So, I was watching a service being held by down in your area, Reverend Jakes, TD Jakes, and he was talking about sometimes you have to reinvent yourself, and that you should follow your passion, because your passion is it wouldn't be work to you. So my other passion besides football is music. I'm a professional bass guitar player, have been since high school. My hometown, Dayton, Ohio, is known for a lot of old school funk music. Ohio players, Zapp, Lakeside, Slave, Heatwave, Roger Troutman, Fazo, Sun, all folks had hit records out. So I grew up with all those guys, and so a lot of guys in my hometown are musicians. So I followed my passion. After I couldn't get a return job in the NFL, I followed my passion. I picked my bass guitar back up, and I started having fun, and here I am 19 years later. I've had a band that's traveled the world and done some great shows. I've been with everybody from Chaka Khan to Morris Day and the Time. I've played some bass for Aretha Franklin, all kind of stuff, who became a good friend. But I got to mention that the way I got into that is your co-host right there, man. His dad, Robert Penn, one of the best blues guitar players you ever want to hear, was my mentor. Actually, he was in the band that played at the Silverdome during our football games. And what happened was we were playing a game, and I'm in the huddle, and it's a TV timeout, so we got some time to kill. And the band is jamming, but they give the guitar player this solo, and my man was killing the guitar. So I'm in the huddle like, man, that brother getting it, So what it ended up happening is after the game was over, I ran into him in the tunnel. After the game, I say, hey, bro, I just want to let you know, man, I'm Larry Lee, one of the players. Man, I'm a musician, and I listened to, boys, you was killing it with that guitar in the third quarter on that guitar solo. He said, thank you, brother. And he said he plays around town. So me and Alvin Hall and some other Lions players, we started going around his shows around the different places in Detroit. And we became good buddies, and so much so that during that period after the Lions let me go, and I decided to pick my bass back up, actually, I started playing with Robert Penn for a few years, couple of years. I played and got my fingers back in shape, got my chops together. And then I decided I wanted to start my own band, and that's what I did. And now, Fritz Pollard. Fritz Pollard, man, if you go to YouTube, there's a documentary called The Forgotten Man on Fritz Pollard. He was an amazing individual. He grew up in Chicago, and he went to Brown on a football scholarship. Obviously, the first guy to play at Brown University, an Ivy League school. And then he got out and he went to went to University of Pennsylvania for dental school. And so now you got, a great athlete. Now you got a potential dentist. So he withstood the rigors of the being the first Black player to play in the then National Football League. And obviously he went through quite a bit of turmoil and racism and everything else, but he persevered. And then after he finished playing, he became a coach. So in 1921, 100 years ago, he was the first Black coach in the then NFL of what it was then. And he coached there. And then after those years, he's a Renaissance man. He went on to become an attorney and an agent for stars. He was Paul Robeson's agent. He was Lena Horne's agent. And he did that for a while. Now, remember, he also went to dental school. Mm-hmm. And then after being an agent, man, he owned the first African-American investment firm in New York. So he was just a Renaissance man, a most awesome individual. And Johnny Cochran, the late Johnny Cochran, the attorney, and Cyrus Mary started the Fritz Pollard Alliance in 2003. And it was a result of the NFL's hiring practices and the lack of hiring people of color. And they were going to sue the league and do some things to get it to cooperate and get more people of color within the front offices and head coaches and general managers. So they founded the Fritz Pollard Alliance, and they, named it after Fritz Pollard. And John Wooten, longtime NFL player with the Cleveland Browns back in the day with Jim Brown and et cetera. He was the executive director for a long time until last year, and he retired. And Mr. Rod Graves took over as the executive director. And Rod Graves' history is Rod was a longtime scout and personnel director for the Chicago Bears. Then he went out there where you are, Brother Penn. He was the general manager of the Arizona Cardinals when they went to the Super Bowl. Then he left there and went to the New York Jets and the league office, and he became the executive director a year ago. And he and I have been friends for a long time. And as soon as he got the executive director position, which I interviewed for as well, and I came in a very close second to him, he reached out and brought me in and asked me would I join forces with him to help take Fritz Pollard to the next level. So I did back of June of last year, and I've been around not a year yet, but because of COVID, we would have been more involved person to person in things like the Super Bowl and the combines and the drafts. But we got the Johnny Cochran Salute to Excellence Awards coming up on March 16th, and I'll let you guys know the platform so you all can watch and everything. And we're going to honor some folks like Bruce Arians, Ron Rivera, Tom Flores, the Raiders coach that just went in the Hall of Fame. There will be special appearances by Art Shell and Al Riveron from the Referees Association and so many other awards and things we're going to do. Harry Carsons, who is the chairman NFL great linebacker, Hall of Famer Harry Carsons is chairman of Fritz Pollard Alliance, and Cyrus Mary, who started it with Johnny Cochran, is still alive and is still a civil rights attorney in Washington, D.C. So that's the Fritz Pollard Alliance. It's basically been an under the radar kind of scenario, but we're now bringing it out, and you've probably seen recently where the gentleman got hired by the Jacksonville Jaguars who had a racist past, and Rod Graves spoke out about it and that caused the gentleman to resign, and we were very instrumental in the hiring cycle this year with Brad Holmes in Detroit, Terry Fontenot in Atlanta, getting Martin Mayhew back as a general manager with the team in Washington, and Robert Saleh and David Culley in Houston. So we were very involved in all those hirings, and we're trying to obviously get things better and get more people of color into the suites areas, all of the subsidiaries of the NFL, like NFL Films, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to take Fritz Pollard to a different level. So it takes a village, and everybody, including you guys, myself, the NFL. We got to get these owners to understand how positive it can be to have people of color in your organization. Just take a good look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers,
That's right.
Super Bowl champions. Look at their staff. Bruce Arians. That's why we're honoring him. Look at his staff. Women, people of color, all over the place. Coordinators with Todd Bowles. Coordinators with Todd Bowles, Byron Leftwich, and Keith Armstrong. All coordinators. Special teams, offense, defense. Female coaches, etc. So diversity and inclusion can be very positive.
I absolutely 100% agree. With Bruce Arians, I was actually having a conversation with a friend about Bruce Arians, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's 10 assistant coaches, including when you're talking about your major coordinators, which are defense, offense, and special team, and then there's 2 women that are assistant coaches. One, I believe, is the assistant defensive line coach, and the other one is a strength and conditioning coach. And so, I've always liked Bruce Arians because as someone who is an educator and a coach, I've always believed that in second chances and giving people the benefit of the doubt. And I think that Bruce Arians is the epitome of it. You got to, and you see that as a coach, just like Tyrann Mathieu, right? The thing is Bruce Arians had the conversation with him, but hey man, I'm gonna give you that chance. Another person that a lot of people don't know, and I followed him just because I remember how good he was in high school, was Robert Ndici. Mm-hmm. That was one. He slid to where he was. He would have been a top 5 pick had he not had any of those issues. But that was one thing that Bruce Arians did, is he gave him multiple chances. And I love a coach that looks at that looks at things that way and says, hey, listen, I know there's a past, but I do believe that people deserve second chances, because honestly, it's a lot of time the privileged that get these second chances, and we're kind of left out in the cold.
Exactly. Well, Bruce Arians, he has a track record of just being a straight shooter, a guy that will, tell it like it is. And, I got to know him when he was on the Pittsburgh Steelers staff. The Pittsburgh Steelers general manager, Kevin Colbert, and I are like best friends. And there's another organization, another staff that takes diversity seriously, and that's no coincidence why they're a winning organization. I mean, look at Mike Tomlin, not a losing season in I think his 15 years of being a head coach. The staff has African Americans all throughout the staff, people of color. Kevin Colbert, the GM, is that kind of guy. That's actually, the part of the reason for the Rooney Rule. The Rooney is the owner, the Rooney family, the owners of the Steelers, and they've been proactive in diversity and inclusion from day one. So, and they're probably the team that works the closest with the Fritz Pollard Alliance, and just a lot of good synergy in those two places, especially Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh.
All right. Now, as you mentioned, the situation in Jacksonville with Chris Doyle. Can you explain to our audience the significance of that event and how you guys stepped in and made that happen?
Well, what happened was Urban Meyer, new coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, had never been in the pros. He's always been a college coach. So as he was putting his staff together, he decided to hire Mr. Doyle, the guy that was at University of Iowa that had lost his job at University of Iowa because of his racist comments or racial significance there at Iowa. And so when Urban Myers hired him, it didn't set well with us, and specifically Rod Graves. And Rod came out as the executive director of the Fritz Pollard Alliance and made a statement that if he was not good enough to work at Iowa because of his comments in past, why is the NFL accepting him as a coach into their ranks? And so he made a strong statement about that's how that good old boy network works. And Urban Meyer tried to defend him and tried to say that, well, I've known him for over 20 years, et cetera, et cetera. Well, so, and, for him to do what he has done, he should not be on your staff. And so when Rod did that, it became national, and the news got a hold to it, and it caused Mr. Doyle to decide to step down, which is the right move, but he never should have been hired in the first place.
Exactly.
I agree.
Now that event caused ripples throughout the NFL, and it also put the Fritz Pollard Alliance on front page, and it allowed just the common folk and not even sports followers and enthusiasts know who the Fritz Pollard Alliance was. So I believe that event was very significant to the plot and what you guys are trying to accomplish. Haas, go ahead.
Yeah, and you said that, you said something that was really significant in that is, yes, you guys actually helped to keep that from happening, but the problem is it should have never happened in the first place.
Exactly.
And so it's too often where you have the okay, it's when you're dealing, because we're talking about a league where 80% of the players are African American, and you're going to hire somebody with a racist past and think that that's okay. That's something that definitely, and I'm so glad that you guys are willing to take a stand on that, because it's gotten too PC. It's gotten too, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't be respectful and tactful when you do things, but what I'm saying is that people have kept quiet in so many situations where we're keeping quiet doesn't help anything. And so, and you also, I want to bring out is something you said earlier when you talked about the different positions that are inside an organization. One thing that we want our audience to hear is that, listen, here's the eye. The top 2% of the best high school players in the country go to D1 school. The top 2% or less than 2% of your college players, the best top 2%, go on to the pros. And then less than 1% of them become stars. When you're looking at those percentages, one of the things that I think that ought to be a desire, something that we ought to look at, we need to take our eye all and just stop focusing on being the player. Not to say that you shouldn't want to be a player in the league, but let's look at some of those other positions. Let's look at some of those executive positions. Let's look at some of those, positions that in as far as NFL writers and different positions that are held within teams and the NFL as a whole that we can start going after. Because I believe if we start to put more emphasis on those type of positions, then we can really make a change. And we don't have situations like we had that we are thankful for the Fritz Pollard Alliance for stepping up on our behalf for. So the thing is that, we have to have a paradigm shift in our minds as far as what we're looking at in the future.
positions of influence. But go ahead, Mr. Lee.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that Rod Graves and I are trying to expand upon. And it's not just, the general manager position or the head coach position or the offensive or defensive coordinator position. We're looking at the marketing director. We're
That's
looking
right.
at the head trainers. We're looking at the video equipment guys. We're looking at once again, the equipment guys. We're looking at community relations. We're looking at player engagement. We want it just to be a fair playing field. We're not asking for anything, extraordinary or a handout or anything on those lines. We just want fair treatment. And besides that, we want to start addressing, at the league office, not only those positions, but the suppliers that supply the NFL with whatever, all the sponsors, et cetera. We want to look at all that. And we're 70% of the playing field. So, and the game is the product, and so if we're good enough to play and create one heck of a $1 billion product, why can't we manage it as well? Right. And the NFL is one of the last great institutions in which diversity and inclusion is not just an emphasis, and the hammer has not come down upon them like other industries, like here in Detroit, where I am, the auto industry, and et cetera, et cetera. The NFL has been able to live, the NFL owners have been able to live a pretty good life, without looking at diversity and inclusion, and that's no longer. We're gonna make change through Fritz Pollard Alliance and the Village, and players and the Players Association and all of that. We need everybody to back us, everybody to get with us and understand what our plight is. Once again, we're 70% of the playing field. So that tells you almost 3 out of every 4 players on the field are African American. Who better to manage African Americans than African Americans? Who better understands what they've been through than African Americans? And I'm not saying because we're pro-Black that we're anti-white.
Right.
We're just saying we want a level playing field. We want to be hired when we're the best candidate. We want to be hired when we have the strongest credentials. We want to be hired when it makes sense to hire us, not just give us a handout or anything. We got deserving guys like, once again, Todd Bowles, Eric Bieniemy, Leslie Frazier. We got guys that are qualified, and then we've had guys leapfrog them with no experience, and guys that have never been coordinators, et cetera, get head coaching jobs. They're always moving the goalpost, so we got to put an end to that.
All right.
That's right.
Mr. Lee, just in 2017, the Raiders were accused of evading the set bylaws with the hiring of John Gruden. How receptive has the NFL organization been to the addition of the Fritz Pollard Alliance during the hiring process?
Well, I tell you what, we do get great support from the commissioner's office, from Troy Vincent, and people at the NFL at that level. But the issue and the problem comes to the owner's level. It's a league, and the commissioner is the commissioner. He can do only so much. We have to address the owners. The owners are the decision makers. They're the ones that decide who's going to represent their franchise or who's going to be the face of their franchise. And we don't have enough of them that are willing to take a hard look at people of color. So that's where the issue is. The issue is among the owners.
Gotcha. Understood. Now, during the week of the Senior Bowl, the Alliance hosted a town hall meeting in Mobile. and efforts in involving all the stakeholders, taking advantage of everybody in one location. What did that town hall meeting accomplish in progressing the intentions of the Alliance?
Well, that happened prior to me getting with Fritz Pollard Alliance, but I am aware of that town hall meeting. And what came out of it was that it almost ended up being like a therapy session, you know, for the African-American candidates that are worthy, that get overlooked, you know, and so they start exchanging their stories about their plight and what they've gone through. And so it ended up being somewhat of a therapy session. And, you know, it's a happy, feel good scenario to get it off your chest. But now we got to start formulating various initiatives that will hold owners' feet to the fire. You know, there's all kind of different governmental ways. There's legal ways, and you know, a lot of times folks won't make the right decision, won't voluntarily make the right decision until sometimes their feet are held to the fire and forces them to make change, which is just the right thing to do. We would hope that you would just do the right thing. You know, once again, we African Americans, we aren't asking for handouts or some extraordinary scenario to give us jobs or some kind of handicap scenario. We just want a fair playing field, fair and equal playing field, and people in the hiring cycles to pull the triggers. Don't be afraid. Challenge yourself to become more familiar with other cultures. Challenge yourself to become, in tune with what's going on today. Just let's be honest. A lot of these owners, they just aren't in tune with today. They aren't in tune with the African American plight. They aren't in tune enough to just intermingle, not alone hire someone. And then, you know, you can't tell me, and this is just, you know, my humble or honest opinion, is that, you know, there's a percentage of racism involved. People hire who they are comfortable with. People work with who they are comfortable with. And a lot of them just don't take the time or the understanding to get to know us. The Fritz Pollard plight is personal to me because I lived what we're fighting for. I was vice president of the Detroit Lions during some great years, during the Barry Sanders years and all those things. We went to the playoffs 6 out of 10 years in the 90s. And what makes me extraordinary is that when you're in the NFL front office, you're either a personnel guy on one side or you're an administrative guy on the other side. An example of a personnel guy is Rick Spielman in Minnesota, Kevin Colbert in Detroit, et cetera, et cetera. Those are personnel guys. Then you have administrative guys like Rich McKay in Atlanta, Rod Wood in Detroit. Those are administrative guys. Well, during my tenure at the Lions, I did both.
Yes.
I was right up under both of those gentlemen. I was right up under the player personnel director on the personnel side, and then I was right up under the general manager on the administrative side. So, on one hand, I'm evaluating talent. I'm in on all the cuts, trades, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then on the other hand, I'm handling all the day-to-day operations. I'm negotiating contracts. I'm doing all those things on the right side. In actuality, I'm more qualified to be a general manager than most general managers because they ride one rail or the other. I rode both. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, you know, an added trifecta is that I'm a former player. So I understand the locker room as well.
Right.
I understand what it means to be a player in the NFL. I played for 8 years. So that's a rare trifecta that I have. That and I couldn't get back in the league, you know. So the plight of the Fritz Pollard Alliance is near and dear to my heart. It's not a job to me, it's a calling.
That's right.
And that's why I take it as seriously as I do.
As it is to us. Now, I have a question. Last week, the Minnesota Timberwolves fired Ryan Saunders, then immediately hired Toronto Raptors' Chris Finch without interviewing one minority candidate. The NBA currently has 7 black head coaches out of 30 teams in a league that is 75% black. With all the progress that the Alliance has made, is there any plans to help rectify not only an NFL issue, but an industry-wide issue?
Yes, that's the goal, and that's what's being done at Fritz Pollard right now. Fritz Pollard Alliance has somewhat been just a pretty private institution with John Wooten doing an amazing job at keeping it relevant and working with the past commissioners, Tagliabue and now Goodell. But you know, Rod Graves has a vision, and he's got me in on it, where that's what we want to do. We want to grow and expand Fritz Pollard into other areas of sports, wherever injustices are being done, other sports, even collegiately. So yes, that's the future of Fritz Pollard. It's not just a representative of an advocate in football, but other sports, and to include the collegiate level as well.
So tell me this: what are some of the things that some of the events, some of the things that we'll see the Fritz Pollard Alliance coming from the Fritz Pollard Alliance in the future?
Well, the most recent one coming up is March 16th. We have the Johnny Cochran Salute to Excellence Awards, which I aforementioned. But we last year we implemented a coaching and a front office summit where veterans of the coaching ranks gave seminars to the younger up and coming coaches in the league. Everything from how to run your room to how to coach your position, how to be a professional. And then the second one we had was front office executives, team presidents and general managers give a presentation on what it takes to be a general manager, team presidents. We're currently working with a couple of companies, to include Microsoft, on expanding our training and our tutoring of our candidates. We want them ready from A to Z. The football part is very easy for them because they all pros, and you know they've coached or played, et cetera, et cetera. But we want to work on the other skills as well. You know, the NFL works with Microsoft, and they're all with the Microsoft Pros. So we want to get into data. We want to get into analytics. We want to get into all those things. So a well-vetted Fritz Pollard candidate will leave no stone unturned on his abilities and his experiences. We're going to go from A to Z. We're going to share with one another. We're going to have them very much prepared. And to Rod Graves' credit, he tutored some of the gentlemen that are now general managers, like Andrew Berry in Cleveland. Last year, Rod was instrumental in getting him prepared. Brad Holmes in Detroit this year, Terry Fontenot, et cetera, et cetera. So we just want to make sure that the Fritz Pollard candidates that we present are the best of the best, not only in the ability on the field, but in all things necessary off the field, to include you know, how to interview, to include your strengths and work on your weaknesses. And so a Fritz Pollard candidate will be a well-vetted candidate in the future.
Gotcha.
So now, and correct me, I just want to make sure I heard this right. So you're looking at putting this program together and having active players become a part of this program, where they can go through tutorials, if you will, for interviewing and all the different things that it takes to be front office. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, not just active players, but current people that are in positions in the NFL that want to grow. You know, for instance, say a position coach that wants to be a offensive or defensive coordinator, or an offensive defensive coordinator that wants to be a head coach, or a person involved with personnel that wants to be a general manager, or a guy that's, you know, high in the ranks of a general manager or assistant general manager that want to become team president. Because right now we only have one African-American team president in the whole NFL, and that's Jason Wright at the Washington team. So, you know, we want to build up and nurture a whole other level of candidates and get them ready. And we're going to make it awfully hard for them to be denied. Now, the other issue of that is there's only so many jobs. The NFL is only 32 teams. You know, it's not like there's a plethora of jobs all over the place. But if a guy or a young lady or a person of color comes through Fritz Pollard Alliance, we're gonna, you know, there's no guarantees, but we're gonna make sure that that person is RPO instead of run pass option, is ready and prepared for the opportunity.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
All right. And I'm taking it this is something that you guys are going to roll programs out for other sports as time goes on, correct?
Correct. As we grow, yeah.
Now,
We're in the process of talking to other organizations and entities and maybe some joint ventures and some other thoughts. But, you know, right now we got a strong candidate in Microsoft and some other folks that we're going to be working with.
all right. Well, now next week, we have the honor of interviewing one of your ex-teammates, Mr. Jeff Chadwick.
Oh, okay. Chad, Grand Valley's finest.
Yes, sir. That should be a very interesting interview. You know,
yeah, Jeff's a great story, man. He was not drafted, you know, and you know, a tall, skinny white guy trying to play receiver.
Yeah.
You know, when receivers were just you know, just brothers was just holding down that position all over the place. And man, Jeff was just one of the coolest teammates and held his own and, you know, earned his way onto the team, et cetera. So yeah, tell him I'll say hello, man. Yeah.
Oh, I definitely will. Now, this is usually our Fritz Pollard Alliance question of the day. But so, you know, so the question would be.
But today is just a question.
Yeah, just a question. So,
all right.
Larry Lee in 2021 say to the 22-year-old Larry Lee?
Wow, what a great thought. What Larry Lee would say to the 2021, once again, the student or athlete or
yes, to the 22-year-old Larry Lee coming out of UCLA.
Say it one more time. What would
the Larry Lee?
This Larry Lee tell the UCLA Larry Lee?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, gotcha. My bad. This Larry Lee would tell that Larry Lee to, you know, take things a little bit more seriously. You know, I've always, that younger Larry Lee was a cool guy, you know, loved to have some fun and you know, never was a bad guy, never did wrong or anything. But you know, that this Larry Lee would tell that Larry Lee to I don't know, that, you know, that's a great thought, man. Great question. The UCLA Larry Lee probably had a little bit more fun than he should have. You know, to keep things in perspective. You know, a kid from Dayton, Ohio, going to Los Angeles, California for college. You know, and pretty good athlete, and eventually pledged the fraternity, became a Kappa man, and all that pretty good stuff. You know, so that guy, Larry Lee didn't miss having fun. You know, the young Larry Lee. But he was not a bad guy at all. Did what he was supposed to do. He could have applied himself more. Put it that way. He could have applied himself more in the books and more seriously. But the younger Larry Lee was fortunate because he had two older brothers that were much older than him, 16 and 20 years older than him. Two-parent household. He also grew up, had several African-American positive male role models in his life, besides his dad and two brothers, but his high school principal, his football coach, a lot of great positive African-American influences in his life. So he had a pretty good start. He had a pretty good jump on most guys, and it was far mature for his age. But he did have some fun, maybe a little too much.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Here's the thing is, and so here's what I pull out of that, right? Is that you were a good guy who was living life to the fullest, not doing anything wrong, but not taking things as serious as you probably could have to even have more of an impact, kind of like what you're doing today. And so what I think that is for our audience to see in that is, as we are living our lives, we have to understand that we impact more than ourselves and the people in our immediate circles. You never know how you, like, if when you go to school, right, and they bring somebody from your town, and you go there and you show out, and the thing is you may not know, they may not ever come back to that town again. The thing is that you don't know the impact that you have on the school or institution, or even the professional institution that you or team that you go to. So we have to do a better job of taking things more serious and understanding that our actions do more than just impact us and our immediate circle. So I that was something that I really pulled out of that. On top of the fact, I didn't, after getting to know you and hear you tell you about, I didn't think I could respect and have more admiration for you. And then you went and told me that you were a fellow member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, and then it just shot through the roof for me. I'm just saying.
So you know Elder Watson Diggs too, huh?
Absolutely. I am definitely a man of Diggs, and I should have known. Hearing your story, hearing all that you did, it should have just stuck out to me and be like, you know what? That brother right there is probably a member of my fraternity.
Well, I tell you what. Now going back, you're talking about that young Larry Lee. Now I don't know when you crossed over, but you're talking June 16th, 1979, as a sophomore at UCLA Upsilon chapter.
Okay.
So I'm over 40 years in now. Pretty soon might get close to that white jacket at 50.
Yeah, I just hit 20 on February 2nd.
No.
All right.
Now he was touching on the parts that, how you could have took things a lot more serious. As the coach, I want to hear about the fun stuff. So we have to talk about that a little later.
Let me give you guys some things to read between the lines. Okay, right. Once again, kid from Dayton, Ohio, Los Angeles,
California.
4-year starter on the football team, All-American, Kappa Alpha Psi,
yes, sir.
Kappa House. Okay.
Yeah, it would have nicknamed like Big Sweets.
I really well.
So yeah, actually, I got two nicknames.
Yeah.
If you're a high school and college friend, I'm Mook Lee.
All right.
Now, if you're after UCLA and it's the Detroit Lions on, it's Big Sweet.
Big Sweet.
So those are the two. My frat name was Mook. My frat name was Big from Mook Lee. Yeah. I had a high school teammate that was just a comedian and he used to tease me and say, "Man, you so big, you half moose and half cow."
Yeah.
So he called me Mook, and that's how that got started.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when I pledged and everything, it just stuck Mook Lee, you know, and that was my frat name in college. But then when I got at the Detroit Lions, my second year, we drafted a linebacker out of Purdue named Roosevelt Barnes. Now that name is very significant in the NFL because Roosevelt Barnes is one of the top agents in the NFL. He was agent to Deion Sanders, Emmitt Smith, Ray Lewis. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And Rosie was my teammate, and Rosie was an outside linebacker. So in practice, Rosie used to blitz all the time, and he tried to shake and bake me, but he couldn't shake me. I was an offensive guard, and I'd match up and go right with him. And he said, "Man, this brother just a big old sweet brother. He got sweet feet and everything." So it just stuck, man. Big Sweet. So that's since 1981, I've been Big Sweet.
All right.
I remember when I heard it. But Big Juan Roque. Yes, yeah. But we're not gonna hold you, man. We can sit here and talk about this forever, man. But I want to say thank you, and I appreciate you for being a family member of the ASAP Elite podcast. And man, we look forward to speaking to you again. Definitely.
Absolutely. We'll we will definitely have you on this show again if you will allow us to or if you will.
No problem. I told Coach Penn that I'll be more than happy to come on and help you guys out in any way, form, or fashion. And man, it just looks nice to see the Silver Dome in the background, big Detroit Lions shirt on, and the Lions end zone. I can see Barry and Billy Sims running right behind you.
There you go.
And to you, I say Fanu, yo.
All right, take it easy.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, guys, take care now.
Hey, that was pretty sweet, man. It was a joy to have him on.
Tell me you was a dude. Man, what's wrong with that? Come on, coach. You tell me that you was just See,
I wanted him to tell you, you know. But hey,
all right,
to be an avenue for the Fritz Pollard Alliance is a major ordeal, you know, for this show. They're coming. You know, they're coming, and they'll be front page, and all these hirings coming in the future, and everyone's going to know about the Fritz Pollard Alliance. You know, so it's a blessing and an honor for us to be able to present them to our listeners and our audience.
Well, and you're absolutely right, because I look at this, right, and here's what I think, because you know, our country right now, we're at a point, especially, you know, and it really got pushed off. And we've been here for a while, but we're at a point now where after the murder of George Floyd, that I know for me, because it was just like bam, 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 all these things happening. And now, mind you, being a father of a teenager and a 9-year-old, I'm looking at that and I'm just like, man, you know, what can I do to help my child? Yeah. And so one of the things that I told myself is that I was no longer going to be quiet. I wasn't going to be the PC guy that was always, you know, just had an opinion but didn't say anything. That wasn't going to be me.
No way.
No longer. So when I see things that are questionable, I'm going to question. And so being a part having the Fritz Pollard Alliance as a part of the ASAP Elite podcast team.
Exactly.
Family.
Yep, that's right.
Bro, like that means a lot to me, because the thing is, you know, do you know how much that took a lot of guts for Mr. Greg to put that out there.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I mean, to really say, well, hold up. Call a foul, right?
Yep. We
got to call a foul. Hey, you know, tee somebody up real quick with some issues that are going on.
Exactly.
Because I know for me, I was one of those people that folks that you know, I got into arguments with folks about Colin Kaepernick taking a knee. Because I'm just like, yeah, I understand exactly why he took a knee. Right? And you're mad because you think he's disrespecting the flag? Well, what about those people who are okay? Because I'm a cousin, I'm a son, I'm a grandson, I'm a friend of vets who are perfectly fine with him doing that. So how come it's disrespect to you, but it's okay for them because they fought for him to take that stand? But I'm not gonna get on my soapbox today.
That's
I'm
another
just
show.
saying.
That's another show.
Yeah, that's
Even
a
though
whole other show. I'm
there's
just
time in
proud
this
to
show,
be.
but I get you. Hey, we gotta get
Yeah,
out of
so
here, guys. That's
the
our
thing,
2 minutes of fame, baby.
yeah, we gotta get out. But man, great show. I'm uber excited about having them a part of the family,
Oh,
and
yeah.
can't wait to see what the future holds.
Oh, definitely, brother. Hey, signing off. Thank you for joining us today on ASAP Elite.
Did something, they sang a song for you. Tell us about that.
Well, one of the customs getting little dark clouds come down to getting everything that they had down in that New Haven outfit play against you. In fact, the matter, there was a hesitancy about whether Yale would play against the Browns. And they didn't get any place to argue about it at all.
So when you ran on the field, what happened?
So when they ran on the field, they gave me a big whatchamacallit and called me a lot of names, naturally.
Didn't they sing a song, Fritz? What was it? Tell us about the song. Bye-bye, Black.
Oh, yeah, they got that song, Bye Bye Blackbird, blah, 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 blah.